My name is Carl Dannenberger, and the topic of this presentation is golf course design philosophies that come of age during the 1920s. Walter Travis, one of the early golf course architects, and a person who would write on design, describes the difference between the old style of bunkers on the left and the modern style bunkers on the right. Although specific to bunkers, notice the penal nature of the cross bunkers and geometric design of the tees, greens, and fairways in the old style. In comparison to the modern style, which shows more strategic bunkering, and in this modern style, there is more flow to the fairways and greens, not so geometric. The old course at St. Andrews had a tremendous impact on golf course design. Two major design philosophies arose from the old course at St. Andrews called natural and strategic. The first school of design we will term natural. The natural school of design is based on how St. Andrews was in the 17th century. St. Andrews consisted of no predetermined yardage or par. The number of holes varied, and the location itself seemed natural for golf. The holes followed the terrain of the land with little disturbance to it. This view of the old course at St. Andrews gives that natural view. This drawing of a golf hole depicts the natural school of design, but notice the impact of the bunker in the middle of the fairway, approximately where a drive might end up. The placement of the bunker requires the golfer to think which way they need to play. Natural design often incorporates strategic philosophies. Currently, the term minimalist is used to describe the natural school of design. The naturalists or minimalists would be Alan Robertson, Old Tom Morris, and Willie Park in the old days. In today's world, architects like Tom Doak refer to themselves as minimalists. As previously mentioned, strategic design ideas originated at St. Andrews. When golf became popular in 1848 through 1850, the fairways at St. Andrews were widened to relieve congestion. The result was the origination of the strategic design. Strategic design is simply a golfer needs to think about the kind of shot they need to hit prior to striking the ball. The widening of the fairways meant that adjacent golf holes shared not only the greens, but fairway areas due to the out and back layout of the course. The opening up of the fairways meant that the hole could be played by various routes. The placement of a fairway bunker, for example, like Hell Bunker, found here on the 14th hole, or the Beardies, could change the direction a hole should be played. Actually, there are holes where playing down the adjacent fairway was better than the given fairway of the hole. This is a drawing of the 14th hole on the old course with the possible routes the hole can be played. Here in this golf hole drawing, you could take a risk and try to hit your tee shot over the bunker. If you are successful, you are rewarded with an open, shorter shot to the green. If you decide to go more to the right, which is a safer way, you are now faced with a much longer second shot, and you must contend with a greenside bunker. This drawing depicts the strategic design philosophy. In a contest that was sponsored by Country Life magazine in 1914 and coordinated by Bernard Darwin, a famous golf writer in England, Alister MacKenzie won first place with this drawing. Notice the multiple ways of playing the hole, some more risky than others, but also greater rewards. I don't think this hole would have been practical to build. It looks like the hole would have to be about 250 yards wide. If you were to look at the strategic type of golf course designers, there are several, many of which did golf courses during the 1920s. You would include H.S. Cole, Donald Ross, C.B. McDonald, Alister MacKenzie, Albert W. Tillinghast, George Thomas, Perry Maxwell, just to name a few. In previous presentations, we have alluded to the school of penal design. In comparison to strategic design, penal design requires a certain type of shot. In most cases, it's a straight shot. If the shot is not hit correctly, you are punished. I like to think of penal design from the mental aspect as reward those who can endure the most torture. Often the United States Open Championships are set up to be penal in nature. Long, deep, rough, and forced carries are some of the characteristics. This is an artistic drawing of a hypothetical penal hole. Notice that the tee shot is a forced carry over water to the fairway. Water on the left and out of bounds on the right requires a straight shot. The second shot is a forced carry to an island green. Even if you lay up short of the island green, your next shot will be either on the green or in the water. There is no strategic thought process going on here. The early courses in the United States were characterized by penal design. Cross bunkers were often placed 100 to 150 yards off the tee to catch and punish poorly hit shots, those that were topped or hit along the ground. The cross bunker shown here is about 100 yards off the tee. This is a picture of what the second shot on the 18th hole of Pine Valley would look like. The second shot would have to carry a stream and bunkers guarding the front of the green. There is no alternative route around that stream or those bunkers. One of the most famous holes in golf is the 17th at TPC at Sawgrass in Florida, which is penal in nature. The short par 3 requires a perfect shot because the green is surrounded by water. The major schools of design are natural, strategic, and penal. There are other design concepts like the heroic design, which was put forth by Robert Trent Jones in the 1950s. This concept was to reward as much as one would be willing to risk. Robert Trent Jones probably only built about 6 of these types of holes, and in many ways they are penal, but the concept is shown here. With your tee shots, you may take a heroic approach where you can cut off as much of the dogleg as you can, but the risk is greater because the longer carry over water. At this point, I would like to take a moment to mention the impact that course maintenance has on design, especially the aspect of being natural or the more current term, minimalistic. From St. Andrews through many of the courses designed by architects of the late 1900s and early 21st century, considerable mounding or slope was present in greens. This photograph shows some of the role in the greens at St. Andrews. This drawing by Alistair Mackenzie shows how mounding into greens was a design concept to create areas or sections for pin placements. Alistair Mackenzie's concept of putting roll into greens is shown here at Augusta National Golf Club on the 5th green. During the 1920s and prior, the allowable slope for placing the cup or pin placement on a green was 5 to 6% slope. At times progressed and the maintenance became more intense during the 1960s, you can see that the acceptable slope for placing a cup became less. In the mid-1970s, with the advent of the stimp meter for measuring ball roller speed, the acceptable slope for pin placements dropped off significantly. And to now, with the stimp meter readings in the 12 to 14 range, the acceptable slope for pin placement is less than 2% on the PGA Tour. As greens have increased in speed, the greens have become flatter and larger. This picture shows a golf course superintendent measuring ball roll with a stimp meter. As course design has moved to more natural or a minimalistic design, putting more slope and mounds into greens found in the old types of designs and then maintaining them currently at 1/10 of an inch to get firm and fast green speed is not appropriate. The results are greens that are extremely difficult to putt and in many ways unfair to golfers. Generally, when you add more slope, you need to have a slower putting surface. In subsequent presentations, we will look at various types of golf holes that incorporate the design philosophies we have discussed here.